Welcome to the show. It's Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Hope you're having a good day wherever you are listening today, whether you're in your car, in your home, maybe you're walking around and you got your cell phone out and looking and or listening right now on YouTube, the Irish Breakdown YouTube channel or the Sports Radio WSBT YouTube channel. I'm Sean Stires along with Vince DeDario. It's Notre Dame football mailbag day on the show today. That means we're answering tons of questions about Notre Dame football, and the way that you can do that, if you're, for example, listening in your car and you want to submit a question when you get home, just go to YouTube and search Sports Radio WSBT in YouTube, and you'll find us streaming live until 7 o'clock tonight. You can get in the live chat and give us your question right there. That's how you do it.
That's it. Easy.
It's just that simple. Yeah.
Easy.
Very easy. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing good, man. Right in the middle of the week, you know, things are moving right along. So, yeah, no complaints, man.
All right.
And it's another beautiful fall day. Like, these are the days I can get on board with. A little windy, maybe.
Yeah.
Just means the leaves are going to come down and have more work this weekend. But, yeah, it's a good fall day, man.
Has been a little windy the last few days. A little windy, just a little bit on the cooler side.
A little brisk for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But not too bad, all things considered. You're right. Those leaves are coming down. They're going to be coming down even quicker. All right. Let's get into some mailbag questions for tonight. Let us start. I just saw a question that I'll tell you what, we'll just forgot to get this loaded up here.
That's all right. We're good.
I did all this talking, and as I stall here, I didn't get the questions loaded up so I can put them up here on the screen. Here we go.
We're good. We're good.
Ready to go. From Irish English.
Oh, boy.
LSU over under 8.5 wins next year. Here's their schedule so far. Clemson, McNeese, at Arkansas, at Auburn, at Kentucky, Alabama, Mississippi State, Texas, Texas A&M, at Ole Miss, at Tennessee. Over under 8.5. I would like to know who their coach is before I pick.
I know there's a lot of TBD here.
I know.
I don't know what their roster is going to look like. I don't know who their quarterback's going to be. I don't know who their head coach is going to be. There's a lot. The only thing I know for sure is that their colors are still going to be purple and gold. Like that's all I got so far. But I mean, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4. Man, I'm going to go under. I think there's enough 50-50 games in here that I am not confident to say that they're going to win 9 games.
Yeah, new head coach and the whole thing. You don't know what you're going to get, you know, what kind of what the roster's going to look like a year from now. I see a potential of 3 to 6 losses, just depending, you know, and that's based on of course, what the teams are right now. But you're right, you know, there's a lot of games that can go either way. So also, I'm going to start with 3, and then I think that there's a 4th loss probably coming for a first-year head coach, unless obviously you just catch lightning in a bottle. So I'm going to go under that 8.5 as well for LSU next season.
Yep.
By the way, I should say I saw someone say something about Josh Pate in the YouTube chat, and he did make an apology on his YouTube show to Notre Dame last night. We're going to hear that apology in the second hour in Rapid Fire tonight. So I realize it's a long tease, but you'll be able to hear that as well as some comments from both Notre Dame Athletic Director Pete Bvakqua, some interesting stuff that he had to say recently about scheduling and some other stuff, and Heather Dinich from ESPN on Marcus Freeman. So that'll all be in the 6 o'clock hour in Rapid Fire. It's pretty full Rapid Fire, I think.
It really is. A lot of audio. There's a lot going on there. You're really setting the bar awfully high for when you're not going to be here tomorrow, by the way. So
I guess so.
Man.
I guess so. I won't be here tomorrow, actually, because Notre Dame women's basketball, we've got our first exhibition game tomorrow night against Purdue Northwest. And, of course, Sports Radio WSBT is the place to hear all Notre Dame women's basketball this season. So we'll have that pregame show at 6:45, some of the Yellow Ivies thoughts and all that good stuff. But Vince and Jesse will be holding down the fort tomorrow when I'm gone. They'll have some of Marcus Freeman's Thursday. Zoom comments, they will still have that, and you'll be able to hear plenty of comments from Marcus Freeman as well as their thoughts on said thoughts. So,
thoughts on the thoughts.
A lot of thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
From Tommy Rock, the Irish defense and the offensive line will continue to get better as the season goes. And when the playoffs get here, Notre Dame will be will be the team no one wants to play, ? Hint, there's only one correct answer. So, okay, so this is actually a question, not like a statement. So I guess, do you buy or sell that, Vince? The defense and offensive line will continue to get better. And when the playoffs get here, Notre Dame will be the team no one wants to play.
I mean, I buy it because, if Notre Dame makes it into the playoff, that means they've won 10 games in a row.
Like last year.
Yeah, exactly. And the games that they will have played down the stretch are games that are very, very winnable and very, very opportunistic for the offense to put up some points and put up some numbers and to really get a lot of, excitement, a lot of, I'm trying to think of the right word here and it's escaping me, but they're going to be feeling the mojo on offense and defense going into those playoff games. And so, there's a lot to be said for feeling good about what you're doing, no matter who you're playing against. And Marcus Freeman will have them ready no matter what. So, catching this team on a 10-game win streak, that's a tough spot to be in if you're the opponent, I would say.
Yeah, I would pretty much buy that as well. TBD maybe a little bit on the offensive line because you are going to have some new faces out there because of the injuries, and I want to see how they play together. I think that we'll get a really good whatever we see this week, I think that'll probably be what they look like for most of the rest of the season, so I think this will be a really good gauge for Notre Dame's offensive line and really for the defense as well. The defense is trending in the right direction. We talked a little bit about the defense yesterday and the grade that we would give them, and it's a defense that's given up a little over 21 points a game for the season, but in these last 4 games, it's about 12.5. So, it's stepped up its game, and that 12.5 points per game obviously includes giving up 24 points to USC, the best offense that they're going to see the rest of the way. So
massive, yeah,
just really good signs across the board, and I think that Marcus Freeman, he's kind of got this formula figured out. He laid the tracks for it last year with what you said. They won 10 in a row last year. They managed to build up that momentum. Their backs were against the wall from the start of the season, and they just kind of kept on plugging along. So I think that they'll continue to trend in that direction. So I would be in on that.
Yeah.
DJ in the YouTube chat asked, what is the minimum you want to see from the offense, whether it's points, yards passing, or rushing, or total? What's the minimum you want to see from Notre Dame's offense?
I mean, I assume we're talking about Boston College this weekend. And, my minimum, honestly, is about 40 points. I'd love to see – I don't think the defensive secondary is very good for Boston College. So I'm anticipating, more than 300 yards passing. I'm anticipating getting multiple receivers involved, multiple pass catchers, if you will. So, I think it's going to be a day for the offense. Now, I'm not expecting, Jeremiah Love to go over 200 yards rushing or anything like that. I'm not ready to predict that, but I am ready to predict that the offense, from a passing standpoint, is going to have a pretty good day.
I want to see 100 points. I want to see 400 rushing yards. I want to see 400 passing yards. That's nothing less than that will satisfy me.
That's fair.
Against BC.
It's totally realistic.
Yes.
Yep.
I just want to see an offense that shows that they have shaken off whatever they were, somewhat shaken into. Maybe I'm talking more about CJ Carr, against USC. It was really interesting that USC just continued for most of the entirety of the game to just play those 2 deep safeties and say, we're not going to let CJ Carr throw deep. It's like, okay. Sometimes he was able to hit some layups.
Mm-hmm.
Other times he was more erratic. Obviously, he made a mistake on the interception in the end zone, but the ultimate result, regardless of what CJ Carr did, was the running game just gouged USC. And I don't think that BC's going to make that same mistake. But I just mostly want to see a pretty well-balanced offense and one that hits. I would say I expect at least 4 explosive plays, like big explosive plays.
Okay, there you go.
BC this Saturday. That's the direction I would go with who they're playing. I think that would be my expectation.
I like that. It's a little bit different than the route that I took. I like that.
Yeah. We can't say the same thing all the time. I mean,
you know.
Freeman Natty, buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame needs to prioritize more size in the middle of their defensive line relative to recruiting/transfer portal.
I'm going to hold that because they have size, on the defensive line. It's just, Notre Dame has not crested over they have not come over the hump yet on defensive line recruiting. I would say they've got good guys. They get athletic guys, that kind of thing. They do try to bring in size. I mean, Gabriel Rubio is a big size kid.
Sean Sevillano,
like they're bringing in size. I just don't think that it is where, from a production standpoint, maybe where people want it to be. And just because you're big doesn't mean you're good. Like that's the other piece of it.
Right.
Everybody wants, to bring up like a 400-pounder and all these. Like, just because you're big doesn't mean you're good.
Did you say Gabe Rubio, by the way?
Yeah, he was the first one I said. Yeah.
Okay.
Because he has a combination of size and athleticism. That's the combination that I want more Gabe Rubios. That's what I want.
Yeah. And, Elijah Hughes is a pretty good sized guy. He's at least over 3 bills anyway. And I think that to an extent, just prioritizing size isn't going to do it. Do they need more size from the defensive tackles? Absolutely. I think that they do. But they also need to have a high level of skill, high level of ability. I think it starts with that. And then you look at the kind of frame that they have and you go, okay, maybe they are 280 right now. Can they be 300 within 2 years? You get into, Notre Dame, a college strength program and nutrition and all those different kind of things. But, I think size is important, but I don't think it's the only thing that they need. But they definitely need a 2 deep that gives them the ability to have at least, like a couple of 300-pounders there in that rotation. So they, kind of like you were saying, along the lines of a Gabe Rubio type, like that kind of guy. That's the kind of guy I think they need. Yeah,
and I want to say the 26 group kind of fits a lot of those, checks a lot of those boxes, I guess. I would have to remind myself of, as far as like who's who and, how big they are and all of those different things. But I feel like the 26 class is actually pretty good on the D line.
I know they've got a couple ends. I can't recite the whole class off the top of my head, but I know from a D line standpoint, whether they're ends or tackles, they've got a combination of both. But again, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you they've got, 2 of these, 3 of the other. They've got some legit defensive linemen coming in at both positions, both interior and on the end.
Yes, I pulled it up. So they got Rodney Dunham at end and Ebenezer Iwatade at end. They're both 6'4", 225. So that's the more athletic, quick off the jump. At tackle, they've got Elijah Golden, who's 6'4", 275, and they've got Tiki Hola, who's 6'3", 300.
Yeah.
So that's a good place to start, considering those guys are still in high school.
Right.
From a size standpoint.
Yeah, because again, like you got a guy kind of like I was just saying, 275 in a high school, you get him in a college strength program and you pack a few pounds on him, like that guy could easily be 290, especially like if he's an early enrollee, he could be 290, from like
by the end of spring.
So like the time fall camp rolls around, and then you get him in there for a full year, and just depending, he could be pushing 300 pounds.
Yes. So. Yep, absolutely.
This is an interesting one from Domer Grizz. I saw this. Let me scroll this up here. He asks if you could franchise tag only 3 coaches from the current Notre Dame coaching staff to prevent them from being poached during the upcoming coaching carousel, which 3 are you choosing? He says for him, it's obviously Freeman and Mickens, but the third could go a few different directions.
Oh, I didn't even think about Freeman being
Yeah.
one of them. I figured he'd be. I thought we were talking about like assistants. So
Let's
actually,
let's leave Freeman out because I feel like Freeman is kind of a given.
yeah,
You want to talk? You want to like make this exclusive to assistant coaches?
yeah, because
I
the
think
top,
that's where like you'd really
yeah,
want to franchise a guy.
because if we were just doing Freeman, I could easily do the top three without any problem whatsoever.
Yeah,
Because Mickens and Denbrock are my top two, and it's not close.
right.
Like those are the two guys you cannot steal from me. Those are the two that I
Absolutely.
want to keep. So, in his question, I would add Denbrock, and then we're done. If we're going to rephrase it to just be assistants, that's where it gets a little interesting. To be perfectly honest with you, you could go Jawan Sider at running back. That's one that you could go. Let's see. I kind of really like the linebackers coach, Sean.
I know.
You know what I mean?
He's the one on the top of my mind.
Yeah,
Right now.
I like
I would go
Bulla.
Max Bull. I think I would put Bulla as my third. I would definitely.
Yeah.
I agree with what you said. Denbrock and Mickens, I think, are the two locks. There's no
Yes.
doubt. But there is a discussion about who your third guy is going to be. Is it J1 Sider? Like already nailing it in terms of recruiting
Sure.
since he's been here. But Bulla's doing pretty well, both in terms of recruiting and development. I think that I would go with Bulla just because of think about how different the Notre Dame linebacker room looks right now
Yeah, man.
compared to say 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's a big part of the reason that it looks as different as it looks right now.
No doubt. And
Now,
I mean,
you can also to an extent say that about the running back room, but that also started with Dylan McCullough. So that's not all on J1 Sider. So,
and I think both McCullough and Sider are elite running backs coaches. But I will also say that running back is the easiest position to coach as well. So if you can keep stocking that room with talent, which I also realize it's recruiting by the coach and all of those things, but if you can keep stocking that room with talent, I'll find a coach. Like that's kind of how I feel. Coaching linebacker is a lot more difficult, in my opinion, and he's juggling a lot of talent in there as well. So Bulla would be
a lot more that goes into it, especially playing that position at a high level in today's game. I think you're right about that. Like at a minimum, if you can, from the right, I think, like you said, from the running back perspective, if you've got a guy who can just keep recruiting it up, keep the recruiting at the level that it's at. Now, again,
that's saying something. I mean, that's saying something, but
it's not nothing. Yeah.
But knowing that I've got Marcus Freeman and I've got Denbrock in my back pocket, those two can recruit too.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you're going to give them the opportunity to recruit running backs, I think they could probably bring in a decent haul. So, yeah, that's why I would stick with Max Bulla.
Okay, so our pecking order would go Denbrock, Mickens, Bulla, and then Sider.
Yeah, I think so.
Line.
Yeah, I think so.
I think I would agree with that. Yeah. Let us take a break. We're off to a roaring start with the Notre Dame football mailbag on today's show. We're going to take a time out. When we come back, we've got more questions coming up regarding Notre Dame football, Notre Dame basketball, with basketball season upon us. All those things and more coming up. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues. Notre Dame Football Mailbag Day, along with Vince DeDario. I'm Sean Stires. We're answering some listener-submitted questions about Notre Dame football and more today. From Wade Garrett, Vince, most likely to happen, miss playoffs or make but don't host, or make and host. There was no comma in there. I was kind of confused. So, most likely to happen, miss the playoffs, make the playoffs but don't host, or make the playoffs and host. Which of those three is most likely?
I feel like with the way things have gone so far, now there's a lot of college football left to be played. We got a month basically worth, right? 5 weekends. I guess 6 if you count the conference championships. But I would say the most likely is make but don't host. I just feel like there's going to be a lot of teams in the mix when it's all said and done. And, you know, to get up to 8, I think is going to be difficult. So I still think they get in, but I think hosting might be on the outside looking in.
I would agree with that. That's kind of the direction that I'm leaning. They get in because it's going to be close because there are still some things going on. And we've actually got a question here that I'll probably scroll to here in just a second about Vanderbilt. But I mean, they're like with some of these other teams in these conferences. Yeah. We've talked about the doomsday scenario with with the ACC because of the fact that you've got Georgia Tech and Virginia and Miami and now Louisville in the mix as well. You've got 4 teams that are kind of in that hunt. And, like the fact that when it comes to Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Miami, those teams don't play each other. So there's a scenario where Miami could be the highest ranked team in the playoff rankings, but not make it to the conference championship game, but still get an at-large bid because they're the highest ranked team, which means you're going to have at least 2 teams from the ACC get in, if not 3 potentially. So it's going to be and like you're obviously like you're pulling for chaos to happen. But at the same time, like when these teams aren't playing each other, like it minimizes the opportunities. Like that's, again, we talked on Monday about Bill Belichick and that decision to go for 2 in the first overtime when they were playing Virginia. Had they kicked and maybe, just played for another overtime, maybe they end up winning that game and you knock Virginia out of the conversation. But as of now, Virginia's in that mix and they've got to be taken seriously because of the fact that they just don't play anybody the rest of the way.
Yeah, right now, I mean, you've got Virginia, you got Georgia Tech, you've got Miami. I mean, you've got way too many ACC teams still in this thing. If you're a Notre Dame fan, you don't like that. You don't like that. And frankly, there's too many SEC teams still involved. You know what I mean? And there's too many Big Ten teams still involved. Like there's a lot of teams involved right now. And Notre Dame, frankly, is lucky to be, 13th or whatever, 12th, whatever they are in the AP poll right now. We'll know a lot more about what the committee thinks of Notre Dame after Tuesday, the first rankings that come out and things like that. But yeah, you're going to need some more help, I think. Again, I think Notre Dame gets in, but it's not as clear cut as I once thought it was going to be. I will say that. I still think they get in. It's just not as, clean.
Because here's another factor here, and this is the one that I was talking about from Irish Catholic. He says, buy, sell, hold, 2-loss Vanderbilt is ranked ahead of 2-loss Notre Dame in the final college football playoff rankings.
I do not think that will be the case. I will sell that. I think there's a lot of people that are involved in this that still recognize
Vince is going to go with Notre Dame's brand name and think that that's going to give them a higher ranking when they have this conversation.
When it's all said and done, I think they will give credit to that. I do. So we'll see what happens. But I do think that's the case.
I don't think that will. Now, here's the numbers that they'll look at. So let's say that Notre Dame and Vanderbilt both end up with 2 losses. We know that Notre Dame's 2 losses, as of right now, are both to really good teams. Now, Miami teetering a little bit. They've got to kind of get their stuff back together, and like you're pulling for Carson Beck, to show that he's actually an above average quarterback and not just average at best right now. But when you look at resumes, we know that Notre Dame's they're not going to have any big wins on their schedule. That's just the way it is, because when you get to the end of the season, like Notre Dame has a win over a ranked USC team when they played. But when the College Football Playoff Committee at the end of the season does this, the way they do it is, are they ranked right now? So can USC, because as of right now, they're not ranked. Can USC get back into the rankings by the end of the season? That's what Notre Dame needs. And can any of these teams that Notre Dame has beaten end up being ranked? That's, it's probably pretty doubtful. But here's what Vanderbilt has on its resume: a 1-7 Georgia State team, a 3-6 Charleston Southern team, and a 4-4 Utah team. So, I mean, that's obviously not going to do Vanderbilt any favors. They've got wins over South Carolina and LSU, both ranked at the time. But again, neither one of them are going to be ranked at the end of the season, so that's not going to help Vanderbilt any. So they've got Texas. If they beat the Longhorns aren't going to be ranked, so that's not going to ultimately help them. The win over Missouri won't be as good as if the Tigers lose a couple more times, which could happen because they play A&M in Oklahoma. I think it's going to be really close, but what's in Vanderbilt's favor that's not in Notre Dame's favor is just the fact that they've got a couple more ranked teams that they're going to have the opportunity to beat the Notre Dame. So I'm going to hold on this, since we were given the option to hold, because I think it's literally like, if that scenario happens, Notre Dame and Vandy both have 2 losses, they're going to be splitting hairs. And I think that they're probably going to be within 1 spot of each other either way.
So that's the difference, right? So if we're splitting hairs, I do think that there's going to be people, it's Vanderbilt. Like, we're going to put Notre Dame in. Like, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding you. I think that's going to happen. And here's the other piece of it. We only have one poll to look at right now, because the coaches poll is ridiculous. The AP poll is the only poll we have right now. And right now, a 2-loss Notre Dame team, Vanderbilt is only 3 spots higher than them as a 1-loss team. If they lose again, I think they're going to be behind Notre Dame. I do. They're going to fall more than 3 spots if they lose again.
But it also depends, again, on who they lose to and how close that game is. Because obviously Notre Dame's 2 losses by 4 points to 2 for most of the season, top 10 teams, is what really helps Notre Dame out. So,
right.
Like Vandy has Tennessee at the end of the season. Tennessee is ranked right now. You lose that game, rivalry game, to a ranked, all those different things. Like, if as long as they beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, and they don't lose to those, or beat the teams that they're supposed to beat, and if one of those losses is to a ranked team, then again, how close is it? That kind of thing. So I don't think they go tumbling necessarily.
I don't know that they'll go tumbling. I'm saying that they'll be behind Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at, because
right
now they're the 4th highest ranked team with 1 loss. They're already not getting a lot of respect, in my opinion.
The point you made about the fact that we're looking at the AP poll now is important, because it's not the college football playoff ranking, and the first college football playoff ranking comes out next Tuesday. So we're going to get a very good idea of how the committee sees things next Tuesday. We've got that to look forward to.
Here would be my question for you. Again, going off the AP poll, what's Oregon's best win right now? And they're ranked 6th.
That's a fair point. That's it was supposed to be Penn State, but it obviously looks a lot different right now.
Correct. And they got beat by IU by 10, and they don't have another ranked win. Like, they don't have a ranked win. The USC game will be big for Oregon, I suppose. But other than that, that's the only ranked team they've got left. So, again, we'll find out more on Tuesday when we see what those rankings are. But the AP people have a lot more respect for the logo, because they got Oregon up at 6. And they've got Vanderbilt down at 9, right? So, again, we'll see what happens. But
this just goes back to the drum that I keep beating, Vince, is everyone talks about these quote-unquote tough Big Ten schedules, and when it comes down to it, they're not that tough.
You're not wrong.
They're just not that tough. I'm sorry.
You're not wrong at all. You're not wrong at all.
They're doing a great job selling their brand and making people think that the Big Ten schedules are tough, but they're not that tough.
And just
they're like Notre Dame's schedule is every bit as comparable as a Big Ten schedule.
Oh my gosh.
There are a couple good teams on the schedule, and then an opportunity for some lower ranked teams along the way, whether you're Notre Dame or a Big Ten team. They're very comparable, but everyone wants to always throw the darts at Notre Dame because they put together their own schedule and everything else. So
and just for the record, I am not convinced Oregon is a good football team. You know what I mean? I'm not convinced they're a top 10 team. I think Vanderbilt's better.
Now, when you play as close as you did against Penn State and then see what happens to Penn State for three straight games after that.
This is what I'm saying. So I just want to be on record. I was just making the argument that they're at 6, Vanderbilt's at 9. That's an interesting place to put them. You know what I mean? So
it is.
Again, I think you're going to see, I'm hoping, I will say, that on Tuesday we see a little bit of a shakeup. Because I'm not convinced some of these teams belong where they're currently ranked in the AP.
James Mertz says, is there a way for a kicker to practice the game-winning / clutch kicks and that pressure, or is it just about having the it factor? What do you think about that?
Well, you can simulate as much as you want. You can say the same thing about a quarterback, right? I mean, you can simulate as much as you can in practice. You can have guys screaming and yelling, and you can put conditioning on the line, and you can do all of the things. There is no way to recreate a game-winning kick in a stadium of 80 to 100,000 people. The whole game is riding on you. Like, there's no way to simulate that.
Yeah.
You can tell kind of if a kid is clutch in practice by, getting a bunch of noise and doing a bunch of stuff, but like you can't replicate that. You either have it or you don't.
I agree with that in general. Like you said, like when it comes to kicking, we've seen, whether it's Marcus Freeman or Brian Kelly before him or whoever, where they put them in very specific game-like situations. Okay, you're at the 45-yard line now. We got to run the field goal team on. Yep. You got to make this kick. If you don't, and they've got some of the noise blaring through the speakers and stuff like that. You don't make it, we're all running. Those kind of things. That's really the best simulation to pressure that you're going to get in a practice situation. Like, you put some consequences. You make it, we're done for the night. You miss, and we're all doing, running, those kind of things, because that's just it. But I tend to agree. Like, the guys who have got it are going to make those kicks. The guys who don't are probably going to choke under that pressure as well.
And they, my son,
the bigger issue. Go ahead.
I was going to say, my son's team, they have a period in practice that they call crunch time, where the offense goes out. It's like a 2-minute drill, essentially. They start at like the 40 going in. They try to score a touchdown. If they can't, they kick a field goal. If they do, you kick an extra point, that kind of a thing. And the whole team is screaming, and, they do the whole thing. They practice that literally 3 or 4 times a week. You know what I mean? You do as much as you can in practice. But again, man, it's not 100,000 people screaming at you either.
Bigger issue for Notre Dame is they got a kicker who I think had some lingering issues that he brought with him, in terms of the health standpoint from North Carolina that they didn't maybe know about, Notre Dame didn't know about coming in. And that's what's at play right now. It's not the pressure situation or anything else.
No, I don't think it's if you make it to that point, I mean, you kick some pressure kicks. I think it's an injury, and I think it's the healing of the injury, and it is a mental side of getting over the injury. I think all those things kind of combined are the issue right now.
Want to make sure that we get, at least one of these juicy, salty Virginia Peanuts questions in here, since he slams them in. And let me see. Which 3 schools would be the top candidate for Brian Kelly to be hired as head coach?
I've seen a lot of Wisconsin, which that's not terrible. I think he belongs in the Midwest. So I think Wisconsin would be a good fit.
I think he could be a mid-tier Big Ten.
Absolutely. Team. Which is why I also think Michigan State could be a good fit if they decide to go a different direction. Obviously, that job's not open currently. I could see
growing sentiment that it could be very soon.
Correct. So I could see him going to Michigan State. He's got a lot of Michigan ties, obviously. He was a head coach at 2 different schools there and won national championships, at the D2 level. If both Wisconsin and Michigan State were open, I would venture to go Michigan State over Wisconsin, but I could see him doing both. A third one, I guess you could throw Penn State out there, but I don't know why Penn State would want him. He's James Franklin 2.0.
I agree. I would stay away. You fired James Franklin because you need the program to take the next step. That's not what you're going to get if you're Brian Kelly. Now, like specific to Penn State is finding that guy is hard. Like it was a lightning in a bottle situation that led to Marcus Freeman
Sure.
from Brian Kelly. And obviously, Marcus Freeman has kept that bottle lit and has continued to elevate the program since. But it is hard to find that guy when you're winning 10, 11 games a year and you're just not winning the big games and taking that step. Like, who really is that guy to put you over the hump? Like, are you really going to get Nick Saban to come out of retirement? And I know they're not talking about that, but like, that's the kind of guy.
Yes.
Like, there are very few guys who are capable of coming in and taking that next step, at least that we know of in terms of proven head coaches. Because the other thing is, like, if you went the Marcus Freeman route, like, who is the red hot coordinator, maybe, who's ready to take that step? You're rolling the dice, just like Notre Dame rolled the dice when they hired Marcus Freeman. If that's the route that you're going to go, and you're not going to go with the proven head coach to replace a guy who was averaging 11 plus wins a season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be. I think this offseason is going to be fascinating to see how this all goes, because I think you've got your big names, like your big names, and then it kind of falls off a cliff a little bit.
Yeah.
And so when the music stops, who all's going to be getting these head coaching jobs?
Joe stole my thunder here. He says Nebraska after Rule goes to Penn State, and that was going to be my answer. If Matt Rule does end up going to Penn State, or even one of these other jobs for that matter, what does Nebraska need? What have they been looking for since Tom Osborne retired more than 20 years ago?
Sure.
At this point, they're looking for the Brian Kelly type. And when you look at his blueprint, he had, like, he's looking for a program, or they're looking for a program builder. Obviously that didn't work at LSU for Brian Kelly, but like when you look at the track record that he had at places like Notre Dame and Cincinnati and Central Michigan to an extent, before that, I think that Brian Kelly would be the perfect fit at a place like Nebraska if Matt Rule does indeed end up going to Penn State. I
could see that. Yeah. But again, it fits your criteria of a kind of mid-tier Big Ten team, which they would be ecstatic if they won 10 games a year on average. Ecstatic, and if you win 10 games a year on the Big Ten, you're going to be making the college football playoff.
Right. Exactly.
I don't think they'd be a threat to win it, but they'd be in there. And if you're a Nebraska or a Wisconsin or a Michigan State fan, you would take that.
Nebraska is kind of in the same to an extent. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but the track record that Nebraska has with all these coaches that they've cycled through over these last 15 or so years, like, they're in kind of the same place. Bob Davie, Tyrone Willingham, Charlie Weiss before Brian Kelly showed up. Like, you'd have a decent year, and then you didn't, like, it was literally like every other year, good year, bad year, good year, bad year. Like for Nebraska, they're not quite good year, bad year. They're just trying to get back up to 500 consistently first, and then have a good year, and maybe, follow that with a bad year. So, I mean, again, like, I think that's the kind of place, like, Brian Kelly, with the track record that he's got, is the kind of guy that Nebraska would be looking for. And we can talk about personalities.
Because here's the thing. Everybody's talking about they want to win or they want to win. Brian Kelly is a winner. Like, he does win games. He wins a lot of games.
Yeah. He just doesn't win the big games. Yeah.
Right. And I think places like we've talked about are places that aren't winning those games right now. So this would be a step up. And from what I've heard is Brian Kelly wants to coach. He doesn't want to not coach. So he's going to be active and he's going to be looking. And so I actually think those would be good hires. I think that's a good hire for any one of those schools.
Yeah.
It's good to hire.
Ken asked, do you think that Penn State might come for Sider to go back to Penn State as head coach, not a coordinator, but he has history there?
That's a big jump. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think they would. Penn State is not in a position, or let me rephrase that. Penn State does not think they are in a position to be giving out this head coaching job to a guy who's never even been a coordinator.
Right.
That's not who Penn State thinks they are right now.
Right.
I think Juwan Sider would do a good job. Right. But Penn State's big game hunting. You like you said, they got rid of somebody who was winning a lot of football games. you can't replace him with a position coach.
Exactly. And that's what, like, no, obviously he had some history there and
Sure,
some kind of relationship with the athletic director, I'm sure. But at the same time, that's just a really big jump to go from professional head coach, basically, like guy who's been a head coach for, around 20-ish years to a position coach when you're trying to take the next step as a program. As good a coach and recruiter as Sider is, I think that would be kind of a hard sell for the donor base and that kind of thing.
A lot of things are going to have to go wrong for Penn State for them to go that route, and that's nothing against Jaywan Sider at all. But like I said, they're going to throw a lot of money at somebody, multiple somebodies, and they're going to get somebody with head coaching experience.
Let's take another timeout. We come back. We've got some more mailbag questions with Vince DeDario, Sean Stires, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com, winding down hour number one, Notre Dame football midweek mailbag. Tons of questions we've had today, a lot of good ones in here. And if we don't get to the questions that have been submitted so far today, I will save them and we'll use them on Friday's show going into the weekend. How about that?
So, that sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Friday, Halloween. By the way, you going to be out doing a little trick-or-treating?
You know it, baby. Still got the young ones that I have to take out. So it's going to be fun. 10% dad tax.
Those days are long gone for me.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if Jesse went out trick-or-treating, that would be a problem.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Or Bailey still wants to sometimes.
I'm sure she does. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Were you, when you took the kids out trick-or-treating back in the day,
were
you the dad that also dressed up, or were you just out there
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I was not. Do you dress up?
No.
Okay, I didn't think you would. But
No,
I've always, as an adult, I've hated trying to find any kind of costumes. I was actually thinking about this the other day. When I lived in Colorado, we did a Halloween party one year.
Okay.
It was like a radio station Halloween party, and we did actually what we did. It wasn't just a Halloween party. There was a hotel, and they would the hotel was part of this. It was like a trick-or-treating event. So
oh, wow.
Each room we would have people would be dressed in a costume, and they would hand out candy, and the kids would come there.
Kind of like a trunk or treat, but
that's exactly.
Gotcha.
I couldn't think of the name. But I dressed up. I couldn't think of anything. There was nothing to buy for adults. So my idea was I took a cereal box and I put a fake knife through it, and I hung it around my neck, and then I wore, some kind of skeleton mask, and I was a serial killer. Cereal box. I killed the cereal box. So I was a serial killer.
Nice. I dig that. I like that.
That was my big thing. Casey wants to know where in Colorado. Lamar, Colorado. We talked about this on yesterday's show. It is much more it's not far from Kansas, and it is, in fact, living in western Kansas, basically. It is flat. It's in the southeastern part of Colorado. There is not a mountain in sight. So,
see, yeah, he's giving you credit. Creative.
Creative. And then I am Tenzin, I am the son of Aang, called me a murderer. So come on. I just killed some cereal. I can crush some cereal now.
Oh, that's true.
Hey, Notre Dame and Boston College this Saturday. The game kicks off at 3:30, and that means the game day show starts at 11 a.m. this Saturday, 11 to 2:30. And you can join Tim Ground, Jimmy Rosari, Eric Hansen, and Tyler Horka. Their guests this week include Capron Lewis Moore from the 2012 BCS championship game team, defensive end, and former Fighting Irish and NFL Super Bowl winning fullback Mark Edwards. So those will be the two guests as of right now for this week's show. 11 a.m., Sports Radio WSBT, 11 until 2:30 is when you can find it. Where I wanted to, because this was kind of going on in the chat a minute ago. Brian NY says, no way a young NFL coordinator gets a big-time head coaching job, because I think someone was saying, they could see a big-time NFL coordinator getting it. I was listening to the College Football Inquirer podcast today, and I think they said there are the average salary of an NFL head coach right now is a little more than $6 million. Andy Reid is at the top. He makes $20 million, but the average salary, and if he's making 20, that tells you how it skews the rest of the averages. The average for an NFL head coach right now is a little more than $6 million. There are 41 FBS football coaches right now who make more than $6 million. The contracts of these college coaches on average are much bigger than even NFL head coaches right now. So if you're throwing that kind of money around, as especially one of these bigger college football, whether it's Penn State, LSU, Florida, even I don't even, I was about to say even UCLA. I don't know if I'd include UCLA because, they've gone so many different routes. But like with the money that you're throwing at these college head coaches right now, I don't think you would trust an NFL coordinator to come take over your program, just where college football is right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, there's a lot that you don't know if you haven't been in the college game for a while. Things have just changed too drastically.
Yeah. Exactly.
Even Joe Brady, who is, the touted offensive coordinator of that LSU team, has been out of college for a long time. Would he be a good fit someplace? I don't know, because lots changed since 2019.
Right. And what's your, for a lot of those guys, if they have the opportunity, they hop straight to the NFL because they don't have to worry about things like recruiting working year round in the way they do. Their jobs to some extent are year round, but they're not on the road, in almost all off season or, even during the season like a college coach is. It's just a lot different. We'll take a break. When we come back, rapid fire in hour number 2. And again, if we didn't get to your question tonight, I'm going to save them and we will use them on Friday's show. Guaranteed. Even Salty's questions. So rapid fire, hour 2, we're going to hear from Heather Dinich on Marcus Freeman. We're going to hear Josh Pate's apology and some comments from Pete Bvakqua as well. And if we have time, also some stuff from Indianapolis Colts owner Carly Ursay Gordon. So that is all coming up. Hour number 2, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It's hour two, Budweiser's weekday sports beat, and along with Vince DeDario, I'm Sean Stires. Cleared that screen off for us on YouTube. Vince, it's past the 6 o'clock hour, the witching hour, if you will, and that means, are you ready for rapid fire?
I'm ready for rapid fire. That was very Halloween-esque there, Mr. Witching Hour.
I know.
It's good stuff.
I know this probably sounds cliche, but where did October go? It just flew by.
The football season always goes by fast. I feel like,
once the football season starts, you might as well just say, okay, it's November now. Because,
right. Well, and for you, it's like, well, might as well be March now.
Yeah, that's true too.
Because football bleeds into women's basketball and, all that. And I mean, you're on the go at that point. So
I know, you know how it goes. Like, basketball season is getting ready to start. We're sitting here the last month of the regular season for college football. And then when basketball season is hitting March, we'll be in spring practice for football at that point.
Good point.
So
that's a good point. Already talking about, the 26 season. So I need to revel in the 25 season for a little longer, but it's going to go by fast. It always does. That entire conversation we just had just means we're getting old.
Yes.
Because things go by fast.
Can you believe it? Back in
my day.
So Marcus Freeman's name has been mentioned as a possible candidate for pretty much every high-profile job opening so far. Here's what ESPN's Heather Dinich has to say about that. Have a listen.
Notre Dame coach Marcus Freeman would leave where he's at right now for any of the jobs that are currently open, because I don't think any of those jobs are better than where he's at right now. Notre Dame, as an independent, has a fair path to the playoff. It doesn't have to slog its way through the SEC or the Big Ten to get there. Marcus Freeman has the talent he needs on his roster. He has the support from the administration. He's got a great boss and athletic director, Pate, Bvakqua. Notre Dame made it to the national championship last year, didn't have to share a penny of that $20 million with any other teams in another conference. And with the new seeding changes, Notre Dame doesn't have to be a conference champion to get one of those top 4 seeds and a first round bye. If Freeman goes anywhere, I think at some point it would be to the NFL. I don't think that day is today. So of all of the fan bases and all of the names, I think that the Irish can probably take an exhale, because I don't see any reason for Marcus Freeman to leave.
All right, so there's Heather Dinich talking about Marcus Freeman and this whole job thing. Do you share Dinich's confidence in Freeman staying put, Vince?
She pretty much checks all the boxes that we have been trying to tell people.
Really does.
For the last week or more, that why would he leave? Why would he leave? Because, and I'm not going to rehash everything that she said, because it was all accurate. He has everything he needs at Notre Dame. He has generational wealth, obviously, because everybody's going to talk about money. He's got that in spades. He's got the talent. He's got all of the things that he needs, and he's got the backing of Pate Bvakqua. What else do you need? That's my question.
And I thought the independence and the conference part, I never really thought of it that way, like the way she was talking about it. But think about Lincoln Riley. If he could go back, I think someone asked us this recently, if he could go back and just stay at Oklahoma, do you think he would have done that rather than go to USC, not knowing that USC was going to jump to the Big Ten? So, any of these potential schools that Marcus Freeman is being talked about, just with conference volatility alone, there are no guarantees that where you go, you're going to be in the same spot 4 years from now. 4 years from now, Notre Dame is still going to be an independent. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And, like she talked about, she's got the support, or he's got the support, the infrastructure, everything else. And I do agree with the NFL aspect of it as well. Maybe you could throw Ohio State in there, if that, because that is his alma mater. There's always going to be that. I think for any coach, who's played at a big time program like that, if that comes open. But it does feel like the NFL is more the fit for Marcus Freeman potentially down the road. But again, I still think that, we're talking a few years down the road. So I agree with everything she said in terms of imminence. I think that Marcus Freeman is staying put.
I completely agree. And even Like, you kind of need the Ohio State job to come open and him to turn it down for me to, just really rest easy, obviously,
Exactly.
And does he, we're speculating that he has NFL aspirations. We don't know that that's a fact. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Still has a very young family, probably doesn't want to uproot him, those kinds of things. I think those things are all legitimate right now as well.
True.
So, his oldest is going off to college. He's got 5 more to go, and none of them are in high school. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there's, not saying he wouldn't do it, but I'm just saying I think he's fairly well grounded right now, and he's got, like you said, checks all the boxes.
He is, but I mean, there have been a lot of other coaches with big
sure.
families too, and they're willing to move them around and stuff like that. I think that it kind of depends on how interested the other party is. Just like how hard they want to go at you.
Sure.
Like, it definitely helped when all the Chicago Bears stuff came up last year that he was in the thick of a college football playoff race, and like that kept him occupied. That wasn't something he was going to entertain while that was going on. So again, like we're all pretty confident they'll be in the playoff this year, but would it take another run like that to sort of keep more NFL teams at bay? There are always going to be NFL openings every year, and I think that when they see a guy young and energetic like Marcus Freeman and everything that he brings to the table, I think there's always going to be interest from that other side.
And does he want to go to a place where he's rebuilding? Is that something that he wants to do? You know what I mean? We have no track record.
Because it's a lot different there, obviously. You don't get to recruit. You got to build through the draft and free agency. When you're
right. Well, I even meant other head coaching jobs in college. Like,
okay,
if he goes someplace else, he's gonna have to rebuild it. Like that. Is that something he wants to do? Because he can look at his roster right now in the recruiting classes and realize they're going to be in the thick of it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's a good place to be. It gets lonely at the top. I get it, but it's a good place to be.
I would agree. So at the end of yesterday's show, we read a post that college football host Josh Pate made on a message board a few years back when Brian Kelly left Notre Dame to go to LSU. And here's what that post said. We talked about this again at the very end of the show last night. Quote, Brian Kelly has essentially been trying to compete in the Daytona 500 with a Prius, given the limitations at ND relative to college football's Tier 1. To even have them consistently in the college football convo has been incredible. If you want to know how incredible it was, keep an eye on the program once he leaves, end quote. So that little message board post from 2021 has been floating around the interwebs a little bit. And so on Josh Pate's show last night, he put on a clown nose. He had a little fun with it. He read it. I thought it was a little interesting, like the reading of the these comments themselves. It felt like it was, entertainment purposes. Okay. A little bit much maybe with the laugh track. And
it was too much, but yeah.
Little OTT with that. But after he got through that, reading his own comment from 4 years ago, he did make an apology. This is a little bit long, so sit back. I want to make sure that we get, the full context and content of his apology. Here's what he had to say.
I said it. I own it. And it was what it was, and all I can do is learn from it. In retrospect, did I view the situation a little incorrectly? It seems that I did. It seems that I missed a thing or two. Now, here is what I think about it. I wouldn't have done this had there not been anyone warn me, but several of my Notre Dame folks warned me. Now, at the time, I listened to them, and I thought it was sour grapes. Because truthfully, 2021, I hadn't been doing this very long. I have very little insight into the inner workings of Brian Kelly's Notre Dame. So I kind of know what the outsiders know and nothing more. But there were people on the ground around Notre Dame football who knew exactly who Brian Kelly was and what he was about. And they talked for quite a while about some of the same criticisms they had them about him there that folks at LSU started to have about him at LSU. I, the other night, went in on him pretty hard, and I was leveling some of the same criticism. Some of the Notre Dame folks were listening and saying, oh, we were saying that like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Yeah, I just didn't buy it. So they were right on that. I was wrong on that. I had to learn it the hard way. I mean, there is no harder way to learn something than wearing a clown nose on your own show and reading posts of yours on message boards from 4 years ago. But I was convinced he had tapped Notre Dame out. And I was convinced of that because Brian Kelly did a pretty good job in the subsequent years of convincing me, other people too, that he had kind of had Notre Dame redlining. Like the way Brian Kelly presented his time at Notre Dame, it was he had his foot all the way down on the floor, and he was absolutely maximizing the potential of that place. And if you looked around, you know, you could use certain context clues, and you could think to yourself, oh, wow, man, now the way recruiting is, all the Southern schools out-recruit a lot of the Northern schools, and maybe Notre Dame's academic admissions requirements and where it is geographically, maybe their time is just past, and maybe Brian Kelly really is maximizing that place. But then Marcus Freeman happened. And since Marcus Freeman has been there, they've recruited better. Like they've leveled up in recruiting. Now, to be fair to me, because I need it right now, I said that before Freeman got hired, although I still thought it like after Freeman got hired. So I probably, if I'm thinking back correctly to 2021, it's not like when Marcus got hired or he got named the head coach, I said, oh, never mind, I take it all back. I didn't do that. But it wasn't a shot at Marcus Freeman. It was just my view of the Notre Dame program at the time. So my view of the Notre Dame program is obviously radically changed. Never hated Notre Dame. That's one accusation I'll push back on pretty hard because I actually have a very, 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 very fond spot in my heart for Notre Dame. They don't believe that, Jesse. I'm going to move on. I actually do, though. But it wasn't Marcus Freeman doubt. It was Notre Dame doubt. I should have been doubting Brian Kelly, and I doubted Notre Dame instead.
Okay, so there you go. That is Josh Pate's apology for those comments that he made from a few years back. And again, what he said, you know, essentially was if you don't believe in how great Brian Kelly is, just watch how far the program sinks once he leaves now that he's at LSU. This was from 4 years back when he made that move to LSU. And that was the mea culpa that he issued last night, Vince. So what did you think of all that?
Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, I give him a lot of credit for doing it. He didn't have to do that. A lot of people said, oh, of course he had to do. No, he didn't. He could have just ignored that.
There are a lot of hot take guys, you know, like when we talked about last week or the week before.
He's not doing that.
Who would just move on to the next take.
Correct.
Basically, and not, you know, sit there and eat it for 15 minutes because he spent a lot longer than this talking about the whole situation. Like there are a lot of people who wouldn't stick a clown nose on their face and
he went a little far
themselves and
he went a little far, like to quote unquote clown himself and the laugh track and all that stuff. That was a little theatrical, which was probably unneeded. But if you just listen to what he said, so it was after he read it, after the laugh track, you know, the whole deal and what he was talking about. He made the points that he made were good ones. He's like, I listened to Brian Kelly as to what he was doing at Notre Dame and how that was all you could do. I did it all. That's the antithesis of where we are. You know, I have to go on to someplace else if I want to win a title. That's exactly what Brian Kelly does. He is the ultimate excuse maker, but he does it so well that people believe him.
Right.
He's a politician. He does it really well.
To say, the politician with all his polish on the edge.
He does it so well that the country believed everything that he had to say. And I don't even blame Josh Pate for having that particular, theory or opinion, because that's what Brian Kelly was telling everyone, and he believed him. I mean, shame on him for believing him, but that's the message that was being sent.
Right. But, you know, the other side of that, and Pate might have included some of this in some of the other stuff he was talking about. So I don't, you know, like if I'm sampling any of his takes, because I listened to more of what he said. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but, you know, like at the same time, if you're Brian Kelly and you're going to LSU and you're trying to get that job and you're like, look, I don't think I can win a national championship where I am, like in your LSU, shouldn't that have been a little bit of a red flag, you know, when Kelly was trying to get in the door down there? It's like you've been to the playoff twice, you've been to the BCS national championship game, you know, again, but it goes back to, I'm Brian Kelly. It's not my fault. It's Notre Dame's fault. I can only do so much at a place like Notre Dame. That's right. It's like I can only do so much with the players that I can get at Notre Dame. And it obviously goes back to shopping down a different aisle. But that's kind of a digression, I guess. But I mean, there were a few excuses in there from Pate.
Sure.
It's like, I apologize, but
Right.
whatever. Okay. I didn't know then, I was new and all that different kind of stuff. Okay. I can kind of agree with that to some extent, but it sure felt like, like he said, Notre Dame people who were talking to him. Brian Driscoll was obviously, one of those people. And there were a lot of others, it sounds like, who were telling Josh Pate a lot of these things. He just didn't want to believe it.
He didn't want to hear it. Yeah.
Felt like he had purple and gold, on the
Yeah.
brain. And that's what that was all about.
I mean, the fact that he was on an LSU message board
Exactly
tells you everything that you need to know.
Exactly.
About.
There was a big slant to what he was receiving there.
Correct. Yes, 100%. And he even said, I think, in another show that, he got his start because of LSU. And I don't know all the details behind it or what that means exactly, but he obviously has ties to LSU. And so he was listening to them. He didn't have ties to Notre Dame. He wasn't listening to anybody that was reaching out to him about that. So he said what he said. That's fine. Brian Kelly was revered nationally for what he did at Notre Dame. People didn't understand that he was trying to get out of Notre Dame for almost 10 years straight. Started in 2012. And then after multiple seasons at Notre Dame, he was trying to get out of there for any other job. And it just wasn't happening. So,
yeah. And he finally got the, the lightning in the bottle that he was looking for. And he was able to find it at LSU. Did you see, by the way, that they negotiated that buyout? It's not going to be the full 54.
20, I think, is what I saw.
Yeah, a lot less than what it was originally.
And did you hear why, by the way?
I don't know if I saw the reason why.
What I saw was that they were.
Oh, there was some sort of ethics clause.
Like an ethics clause,
like
morals clause that they were going to, go after and give him nothing. And so he took, less than half of what he was technically owed because of this morals clause. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
By the way,
no kidding.
I'm just saying.
If they're dangling that over your head, what else do they know that
Right.
nobody else knows right now?
Like if he didn't violate that morals clause, I'd have been like, you stomp your foot and be like, I want 54, I want all of it. But he was like, no, I'll just take 20. That's fine. Like, I don't know. That tells me a lot.
Yep. Jay-Z in the YouTube chat says he watches Pate's show and there are not a lot of apologies on there, is what he said.
Well,
Okay.
and a lot of people in his position don't make apologies.
I don't think he's had to eat one like this.
Yeah, that's
bad, especially when it's in writing and
right.
It can be thrown in your face. I think that's kind of where it comes back pretty easily. Craig says Kelly isn't likable enough for a TV job. That was bouncing around.
Well,
I've been thinking about that. Like, do you think he'd be good on TV? Because he likes to think that he's a funny guy.
Oh yeah,
with his little wit and sarcasm.
I could see him
like
being
that.
a studio guy. Just one of those ex-coaches. Giving his one-sentence thoughts on games. That kind of thing. I could see that. I mean, he'd probably be fine. He's not going to be in a booth or anything like that. Like that's never going to happen. But I could see him working one day a week. Coming in, doing a studio show, and then heading back home to the beach. I could see that.
Joe in the chat says when Denbrock left LSU, there was a rumor going that Joe Sloan was actually the brains behind the LSU offense. I'm willing to bet that rumor was started by BK. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely started by LSU, like to make it like this is no big loss. Like,
no big deal.
Like, he wasn't the guy really pulling the strings anyway. We
nothing to see here.
Need him. Yeah, it definitely came from that side, whether it was Kelly or Sloan himself or whoever. Like it was definitely. And that's definitely how LSU fans tried to justify, losing Denbrock after the fact. Was you heard a lot of that from them, and well, we didn't really need Denbrock that much anyway. Like it was Sloan who was working with Jaden Daniels and all that different kind of stuff. Let's take a break. When we come back, more rapid fire. We've got some comments from Notre Dame athletic director Pete Bvakqua that I think you'll find pretty interesting. I guess we'll find out when we return. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat, IrishBreakdown.com, and Rapid Fire. Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues rapid fire in hour number 2, along with Vince DeDario, Sean Stires. Vince, I wanted to put this one in here from Terry Silver in the YouTube chat. He says, I heard Goodwill Hunting was based on Tommy Reese, but they changed it from football to math to make it interesting. They also changed do your effing job to how do you like them apples?
So random.
I know.
So we won't even talk about the, age discrepancy in the year the movie came out, but
right.
Whatever.
Exactly. It's a nice little theory though.
I like it. I dig it.
Yeah.
I dig it. It's one of the best scenes in that movie. I like them apples.
Have you heard the latest theory on who Terry Silver is, by the way?
Oh, well, I mean, besides the villain from Karate Kid?
Was that his name?
Oh,
is that the face?
Yeah.
It is
Karate Kid 3.
Yeah. I didn't recognize that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the working theory in the YouTube chat is that the handle Terry Silver is like the 4th or 5th handle of the artist formerly known as DK in the YouTube chat.
Okay. What's up?
That's what they're saying. That's the talk. That's the talk. Scuttlebutt the chat. Tommy says it's not a theory. But you nailed this. I think I don't like the only Karate Kid I remember. I definitely remember the first one. I'm pretty sure I saw the second one.
The second one was when they were in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I saw Cobra Kai. I watched Cobra Kai at least the first 3 seasons.
Okay.
I think about the time that I started losing interest was when
Terry Silver came back.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's kind of where it's like, do we really need another bad guy in this mix?
We're going to go on a tangent here, but Cobra Kai, first of all, I don't even barely remember Karate Kid 3, by the way, because it was weird.
See, I don't think I ever saw 3.
It was weird. I mean,
Macchio's still in it by then?
Oh, yeah. He goes to the dark side, and then he comes back. Like, it was weird. And then when watching Cobra Kai, it started out so good. Like, that series was so good. And then it kind of hit a little bit of a valley, but then it ended very strong. So I would encourage you to go back and at least watch the final season.
Okay. Oh, so they have called it a wrap. It's done. It's over.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yep. I would encourage you to watch the final season.
Did you know John Avildsen, the guy who directed the first Karate Kid, also the director of the original Rocky?
Really?
Yes.
So strike out once and then home run next.
They only won an Oscar.
Oh, I had to do it. I had to do it for you. I had to go. I just wanted to see the look on your the hesitation in your
DeDario,
voice.
by the way,
made
more into karate than boxing.
The hesitation made it all worth it for me.
Made me think there for a second. Drake, come on, man. All right, so Notre Dame athletic director Pete Bvakqua was on the Dan Patrick show, of course, when the show was here before the Notre Dame USC game. There's a lot of talk about what Notre Dame's future schedules are going to look like, especially if USC does back out of the series with the Irish. Here is what Bvakqua had to say about that on the Dan Patrick Show, which, of course, is heard every day right here on Sports Radio WSBT.
For us, we're lucky that we have a long list of really prominent teams that want to play us. They want to do home and homes. They want us to come to their stadiums. They want to come here to Notre Dame. And, that's great. And that's a fortunate position to be in. And that's the power of Notre Dame and the power of the program under Coach Freeman.
So there you go. Pete Bvakqua, the power of Notre Dame and the power of the program under Marcus Freeman. What do you think about that from Pete Bvakqua there, Vince?
I mean, look, he's saying the series is important to us, but we're going to be fine. And he's not wrong. I mean, people seem to think that if Notre Dame's not in a conference, they'll never be able to put together a schedule.
Right.
That is just so far from the truth. It's so far from the truth. Plenty of teams want to play Notre Dame because at the end of the day, just like anything else in college football right now, it's all about money. And they know that Notre Dame's going to fill a stadium when they go there.
That's right. A lot of eyeballs, both on TV and in the stadiums. Big draw. I think that there's some, some more SEC programs we're going to see schedule Notre Dame. There's some definite ones that are already on the on future schedules. There's talk about Michigan, like they're going to be on the schedule, but now it sounds like maybe that's kind of kicking around even a little bit more. They're like Notre Dame is not going to struggle to find teams that want to play them. Like, think of the untapped resources of the Big 12 as an example. Like, Notre Dame never plays any of those programs. I'm sure that there are plenty who would like to play Notre Dame. So, like, even as a somewhat distant fallback, like that's still there as a resource if they had to. And those are all power 4 teams, So, and again, I go back to the fact that the SEC has that stipulation after they expanded their conference schedule to 9 games starting next year. They're still requiring their teams to play a 10th game against a Power 4 opponent. That helps Notre Dame greatly.
Yep.
The Big 12 has that in place. That helps Notre Dame greatly. And if the Big 10 would ever just do it, I think that would help, Notre Dame be able to play some of those schools as well. Maybe that's something that the Big 10 is holding out on right now because of that sort of, ram headbutting dynamic they seem to have when it comes to Notre Dame sometimes. But there are plenty of Big 10 teams who are already like Purdue, Michigan State. We're going to see Michigan again. We got Wisconsin coming up next year. They've, just done a series, obviously, with Ohio State. And I think a lot of people would like to see that again. I think that there are a lot of Indiana's going to come on in a few years. So I don't think there's any shortage, but there's always that blind spot that people from the outside have. Like, Notre Dame's never going to be able to put together a schedule. Because I think even the ACC, if Notre Dame were having a problem, I think Notre Dame could probably go to the ACC and have an extra game or two.
Oh, sure.
Kind of thrown on from the ACC.
And they already got an extra one, with Clemson, because apparently that doesn't count.
That's true.
Anymore, which is ridiculous, but whatever.
True. Yep. Josh asked at the ACC as well. Yes, the ACC also requires that 10th game. The Big 10's the only conference that doesn't require it right now, which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, one more comment from Pete Bvakqua as they were talking about the future of Notre Dame USC. Dan Patrick brought up the fact that he could see USC's perspective, in maybe wanting to get out of the Notre Dame series because of the tough Big 10 schedule they play. Listen to how Pete Bvakqua steered that conversation. So Dan Patrick says, yeah, I could see, USC wanting to get out. They play this tough Big 10 schedule.
Yeah, I think it's, we have a tough schedule this year. We opened up with 2 very tough competitive games, obviously with Miami, who's now, I think, number 2 in the country, and Texas A&M. We lost to Miami by 3 points there in our opening game. We lost to Texas A&M here by a point. Then we've had this great stretch of 4 victories in a row. But no, hey, no doubt about it. If we want to make the CFP, and we do, we got to go win tomorrow night. We know that. Our team knows that. Marcus knows that. But I'll push back on you. I think this game is just as important for USC as it is for Notre Dame, and just as important for college football. And if you're USC, you want this tradition. You want to play Notre Dame. You want Notre Dame to come out to the Coliseum.
All right, so there's, again, Pete Bvakqua on the Dan Patrick Show. That, Vince, is blank.
That is some very solid gamesmanship by Pete Bvakqua because he put it right back into the lap of USC, which I love. He's like, they want this tradition. They want Notre Dame to come to the Coliseum. They want this, And I think that I was really hoping, because I hadn't listened to these cuts beforehand, I was really hoping he was going to rattle off the schedule that USC had.
He was very diplomatic,
okay,
and not throwing direct shots at USC, especially since the USC people were by that, because that was the day before the Notre Dame
Friday,
USC game. I'm sure if they weren't already at Notre Dame, they were soon arriving at Notre Dame. He was very diplomatic and not throwing any direct zingers or barbs at him.
That's too bad.
Yeah, but I did, again, Dan Patrick has fallen for the Big Ten propaganda with, I understand USC. They've got to play a tough Big Ten schedule. I could see why they'd want to get out of this. Really? We've gone through this before, but just how tough is that USC Big Ten schedule that we're talking about? Is this any tougher than Notre Dame's? We've talked about Missouri State, Georgia Southern at the start of the season, Purdue. Notre Dame played Purdue. Michigan State. They lost at Illinois, Michigan, Notre Dame, Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa, Oregon, UCLA. You brought up earlier in the show, Vince, just how good really is Oregon. Wouldn't that be something if USC ended up beating Oregon like that? But that's not a gauntlet. I'm sorry. It's just that's not the tough schedule that so many people are making it out to be. And that's basically kind of that's what a typical Big Ten schedule looks like.
Exactly.
You're out.
Because they're not going to line up the best Big Ten teams to play one school. You know what I mean? They're spreading them out, and that's what they did. And I'm sorry, outside of right now 2 elite teams, which would be Ohio State and Indiana, then there's kind of a drop off to another group of teams, and then there's a huge drop off to everybody else. And that's it's not as strong of a conference as he wanted to make it out to be. That's the thing.
Jay-Z says Notre Dame jumps Oregon if USC beats them. I could see that happening.
Absolutely.
That would be Oregon's second loss at that point.
It would be their second loss, and they have no ranked wins, 0.
Right.
So why wouldn't they fall behind Notre Dame?
Yep. The only game they had with any, well, I'm looking at the wrong schedule now. Let me see. Let me find Oregon here real quick because I was about to say Illinois, but Oregon hasn't played Illinois. I mean, the only 2 games, Penn State was ranked 3rd at the time, but again, they're not ranked now. And Indiana,
beat them
as of right now, is the only ranked team that they've played.
And they lost by double digits.
Yep, exactly. At home.
Right.
Take our final break and then back with a couple more topics. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat, Rapid Fire, breakdown.com. Winding down Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com and Rapid Fire. Breaking news, this just in, hot off the text of one Tim Growl, a new guest has been added to Saturday's show. Capron Lewis Moore and Mark Edwards already announced, and now you can add Josh Lugg to the mix.
Oh, nice.
Yes, you've got defensive line, offensive line, fullback.
That Josh Lugg, I'll tell you what, man, his heart, man, is about as big as they come because he played with so many injuries and so many issues and still played at a pretty high level. That's so right. I'll never forget him. That's for sure.
Nope, that's for sure. Notre Dame, Boston College this Saturday, 3:30 kickoff here on Sports Radio WSBT and the Notre Dame Radio Network, and the Game Day Show from 11 until 2:30 Eastern Time. Tim Chibb, Eric, and Tyler, and their guests, Capron Lewis Moore, Josh Lugg, Mark Edwards, 11 o'clock this Saturday. Back to the YouTube chat. Connor says Notre Dame should play a lot of Big Ten teams. Big Ten continuously has the better teams, but I may be wrong. Just my opinion. I just feel like the Big Ten is very top-heavy.
Exactly.
Well, like the depth of that conference is just not that great, and that's they try to make it out like there is great depth, but right now there's just not.
No, there's not.
Especially with Penn State being as bad as they are, right?
That hurts their argument.
Yeah. They need Penn State to continue to be good, and now they need Indiana. They need Curt Cignetti as much as the rest of the coaches in the conference, dislike the guy. They need Curt Cignetti to keep Indiana good, to kind of keep that impression.
Because there's a lot of one-loss Big Ten teams, that are all vying for kind of that third place, maybe second place, potentially, spot. And does anybody think that those teams are really, really good? Iowa, USC, Oregon. I don't know, man. It just seems a lot of mediocre teams battling to me.
I agree. Fill in the blank. People getting up in arms after Micah Shrewsbury's son, Nick Shrewsbury, committed to Notre Dame is blank.
I mean, it's fair if they want to just hammer the kid, I guess. I don't know. He's not the first son to play for his dad. Okay.
Well, not even at the school. He's
not even at the school, obviously. But I would also say that the older Shrewsbury has very much proven that he belongs on the team, right? Yeah. I mean, he's a starter, I believe, and for good reason. He's a good player. I don't have an issue with a guy going to play for his dad. I mean, how many of Dabo's kids, played for him, that kind of thing.
Venables' kid played there too.
Here's what I'll say. And I never want to steal a moment from a kid, when they're committing and they're doing all of those things. I think the 2.5-minute video was a little much. I'll say that.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. But again, what I would say to the criticism, and I think the first thing you have to ask is he qualified for to take the scholarship? He is a 3-star recruit. So it's not like he's a 1-star or a 2-star or even unrated. He is a 3-star, and not just Notre Dame, and again, that's another thing. Well, Notre Dame, they're all taking all these 3-stars. I tell you what, even the elite programs take 3-star guys.
Absolutely.
They're called program kids, and they grow within the program. You expect them to stick around for the entire 4, maybe even 5 years, and get a little bit better, and and help you out. And so I think from that aspect, first and foremost, Nick Shrewsbury is qualified to have this scholarship. And like you said, and then the other thing that I think you have to ask is, as you said, there are plenty of sons who have played for their dads in whatever sport across college athletics. And if you were in this spot and you had the opportunity and your son was qualified, son or daughter, would you want them to play for your team? Put yourself in the shoes.
I 100%
of the coach / dad at the top. Of course you would. Now there are some who would say go play for somebody else or whatever else, but Braden Shrewsbury, like you said, when he got hurt at the end of last year, I don't think it's a stretch to say Notre Dame was worse when he was out at the end of the season, right? Pretty good basketball player, it feels like. And it feels like Nick Shrewsbury probably is too. So I just think I guess it's not surprising because even like when you look at Marcus Freeman and the fact that, like his son Vinny was getting wrestling scholarship offers from other schools, not even named Notre Dame because Notre Dame doesn't have wrestling, but there were people saying, oh, he's only getting these offers because he's Marcus Freeman's kid. I mean, it's just, I think it's going to come up no matter what, when you're a high profile coach,
right?
This kind of stuff is always going to come up when your kid gets whatever kind of opportunities.
I mean, look, there's roster limits now. There's NIL. There's all of these different scenarios. But again, I don't think he's stealing a scholarship or a roster spot from someone else, right? Even if he is, let's say there's 15 guys on the roster. Even if he's number 15, that means he's basically the same as a walk-on, and he's a 3-star kid. So he's not a walk-on. He's better than a walk-on. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I don't think he's stealing a spot per se, that kind of a deal. There's plenty of coaches' kids out there that are on teams that are stealing roster spots. I don't think that's the case in this particular situation.
I don't think so as well. Carlos says, is he taking the scholarship though? I mean, doesn't Indy not offer a discount to stay? That's not.
Look, even if they didn't offer a discount, Micah Shrewsbury is making plenty of money to send his kid to school, even if he's paying the full thing. Okay.
Right.
So it doesn't really, that part doesn't even make a difference to me. I don't care if he's on scholarship. I don't care.
Like who's paying it, whatever. He's on the roster.
Correct. It doesn't matter how he's getting there because his parents have a lot of money. So it doesn't really matter to me.
Exactly. But again, I think, there's like people are just always going to get kind of worked up about a little bit of everything.
Like I said, I thought the video was a little silly. Again, I don't want to take a kid's moment away. I mean,
I need to go back and watch the video. I guess I didn't watch. I just saw like a little clip of it. It was actually, did you say 2.5 minutes long?
Oh yeah. It's really long. It's really long. I'll have to look again, but I believe it's like 2.5 minutes long. It's just him like bouncing the basketball in all these different places on campus. I got bored. I stopped watching it, to be honest with you. It was so long. Like that's how long it was to me. So wow. Again, take that for what it's worth.
Andre in the mailbag earlier asked the expectation for the men's and women's basketball teams this year. What's your basic expectation for the men's basketball program?
I think my basic expectation is that they should be in the hunt for, to be in the tournament, right? I mean, and more than just a bubble team, to be honest with you. I think that's where they should be. Now, the first two exhibition games, I think I'm going to be lowering the expectations a little bit. I have not been impressed. Now, it's going to take a minute for these new guys to gel and all of those things. And when Marcus Freeman goes 1 of 12 or 1 of 15 from the field, you're not going to win a lot of basketball games. And he did not have a great game against DePaul the other night.
Yeah. I think that my basic expectation for the men is if you're 500 in the ACC, you're probably going to have a good chance to get an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament. I think that get to 500, and I think that they can be a 500 team in the ACC, be on the bubble for the NCAA tournament. Women, they'll be in the tournament. It's just a matter of what their seed is. That's what I think. Yeah. And I'll tell you more on Friday after I watch it live for the first time tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. The men need to do something very simple. Well, it's not very simple, but what they need to do, in my opinion, they just need to protect the home floor. Like they haven't been good at that recently.
That's true. That's true.
That's where it starts.
Yep. All right. I'll be out tomorrow. I've got that Notre Dame women's basketball game. Vince and Jesse will be sitting in, and they'll have some of the latest comments from Marcus Freeman. He does his Zoom tomorrow at noon, and they'll talk about some of his comments from that. Vince, I will talk to you later. Have a good show tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
I'll be back on Friday. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.